Hey everyone, in today's video I want to do something a bit different. Today I want to discuss Grand Archive's upcoming multiplayer mode, Pantheon. Weebs of the Shore revealed this during the Christmas break, and the initial response seems positive. For those unaware, Pantheon is a multiplayer mode for 2 to 4 players. Each player will use a deck of 60 cards with no duplicates. There are a few other Pantheon-specific aspects, but it still uses the core mechanics of Grand Archive. On paper, the mode could be a lot of fun. Based on what's been shared by other content creators, especially those with strong relationships with Weebs of the Shore, this feels like GA's casual mode. But after watching videos from other content creators, one thing I noticed that wasn't being mentioned is how the mode is going to be supported at a local level. Currently, all the talk has been around how players will be able to play Pantheon at Ascent events. Now, if you're invested in Grand Archive, then that's great news, but for new players, that doesn't apply. Someone new to Grand Archive isn't going to spend the money on flights, hotel, and event tickets to attend Ascent just to play Pantheon. That means for most players they will need to go to their local game store to play it. To be fair, I'm recording this in January, and Pantheon is slated for release in April. The lack of details around how Weebs plans to work with stores might be intentional, but the lack of information is still concerning. It's safe to assume that stores will have Pantheon release events. People will get their chance to get their hands on the pre-constructed Pantheon decks and to sample the mode with other new players. But after that, we don't know how stores will manage future events. I'm based in Vancouver, and we have 3 game stores that host Grand Archive weeklies. The one that I go to typically gets around 10 to 14 players per week. For 1 versus 1 matches, that's a great turnout. But for a multiplayer mode that will require 3 or 4 player pods, you will need to have about 12 to 16 players attending. If your store only gets 10 players, then you have to manage the imbalance of pods. This could hamper the intended experience for Pantheon. At the same time, stores have limited space, so chances are if they want to host Pantheon nights, they will have to sacrifice standard weeklies. Our store is going to dedicate 1 week a month to replace the standard GA format so that they can host Pantheon multiplayer sessions. Casual modes are meant to bring in new players. When I was getting into Magic the Gathering, I loved their limited formats. Sealed events for pre-release and draft nights helped me learn the game. I love draft because it allowed me to try out new deck types. It's also a great way to learn because everyone is essentially starting at the same level. Yes, your ability to draft cards and your experience with the TCG will give you an edge, but with draft, you can bring in new players and get them up to speed fairly quickly. It's also a great way to get cards into new players' hands and to nudge them into other formats. My fear for Pantheon stems from how draft was announced for GA and then largely forgotten. When I began devising this video, I was under the impression that draft was something Weebs announced in October, with the plans to push it out to stores at the release of Mortal Ambitions Ultra Edition. But that's not the case. Draft mode was announced last April. Like Pantheon, it started as an Ascent-only feature, with stores slowly getting access to it. Since it's tied to Mortal Ambitions, the lack of first edition stock probably made hosting draft events difficult. With Ultra Edition packs coming to stores at the end of this month, will we see stores feature draft events? Again, there are still a few months before Pantheon hits stores. Here in Canada, online retailers have begun taking pre-orders. One is selling all 4 packs for $140, while another one is selling them individually for $36 each. It's hard to tell if this will appeal to new players. It also means that most Pantheon events at launch are going to cost players around $40 to $50. Again, this depends on the LGS and what kind of pricing is being offered. Just to be clear, I'm using Canadian pricing here since I'm based in Canada. The game will cost less for American players, but I suspect that in other regions, including Asian markets, their pricing will be equivalent to the Canadian price rather than the USD. Now, if the cost of entry for Pantheon is $40 for someone new to the game, it's not exactly appealing. If you compare it to the potential cost of a draft night, it's at least double. Let's use the Canadian pricing for Mortal Ambitions Ultra Edition. Currently, stores here in Canada are pricing a box for around $105. If you divide that by 24 packs, that's less than $5 a pack. Now, if I'm a store, I can charge $20 to host a draft night, and I'll recoup my fees. Locals here in Vancouver cost around $10 to attend, and rewards are typically 1 or 2 event packs and some store credit for the top players. Draft rewards would be similar. You get 3 packs worth of cards from drafting, the contents of the draft pack, and any potential store credit and event packs for attending. Yes, once people have Pantheon packs built, you can host events for $10 and follow the same structure as standard weeklies, but will enough players show up for Pantheon? We won't know until the spring. I plan to pre-order the set of starter Pantheon decks, and I still want to attend any release events my local game stores plan to host. If Weebs has a go-to-market strategy in place to incentivize stores to host monthly Pantheon events, that's fantastic. But if they didn't take that into consideration, then it's going to be difficult to rely on Ascent to grow Pantheon. What's crazy through all of this, I haven't even mentioned the fact that Pantheon is releasing at the same time as Mordred's Recollection set and Radiant Origins. Most people will only be able to afford one or two of the three. If you're a longtime GA player, you're probably leaning towards those two over Pantheon. Will that also impact the success of Pantheon? This is my opinion on the matter. Am I right to be concerned about Pantheon? Are GA players actually interested in this format? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this kind of content around TCGs, let me know. I recorded the audio for this a few times, and it took me a while to finally get my thoughts out in a cohesive manner. As always, thanks for checking out this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.